all profit is value extraction. And that means that all profit is theft from you.
Corporate America is on welfare, and we've got to get them off welfare.
The last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary, and you're gonna have to keep on saying that.
Welcome to Cars and Comrades, where I, Brandon, he, him, is pretty fucking hammered.
Yeah. Too drunk to conjugate verbs correctly.
That was for effect. I'm actually pretty coherent.
For now.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to be blind drunk, but I'm not going to know how I got into bed tomorrow. That's the listener's problem, and you guys. For me, it's a normal Saturday.
Yeah. So I'm here, Bryant, and Connor's here as well.
I was going to think that was a pretty good cold open.
Yeah. No, definitely. So I've been having a little bit of moonshine, and I believe Connor's been having some Malort.
Yummy.
But,
wait, that wasn't a joke? You're actually drinking that dog shit?
Yeah, I'm almost done with one bottle, and I've got two more in the apartment. I really got to start. I got to start getting serious about enjoying that again.
Okay, well, my fucking background right now is that I had Monday off because the 4th of July, like anybody gives a fuck, and I had a day off and I still worked 46 hours this week, and capitalism can go fuck itself. And also, in the time that I've been on this call, which is like 30 minutes, I've drank a lot of fucking 100 proof whiskey. So let's fucking do this shit right now.
Yeah.
But also, Malort is dog shit and Connor's a bad person.
Yep, that's how it works.
Yeah. So I don't know when this episode will come out. So, it might not be right after July 4th that this comes out. But, just imagine that in your mind that, it's July, 10th. I don't know, whatever. Fuck.
Yeah, it's something.
Maybe. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about a couple different things. Or maybe we won't, and we'll cut this up, and it'll be edited into some other larger podcast. I don't fucking know. We'll figure it out whenever this gets published.
Everything is not knowable. We're just waiting.
Yes. There could be a giant asteroid that crashes into the Earth tomorrow, and none of you will hear this, and that'll be your loss.
Well, we really are abusive to our listeners, aren't we? This is our intro. Fuck.
In all fairness, I have never been reserved about my disdain for anyone that listens to me speak.
That's fair.
Wait, does that include us?
Yeah, wait a second.
100% you guys are assholes.
God damn it.
But even more than that, we have like 200 or 300 listeners per episode tops, and I want each of those people to understand from the bottom of my heart, it's fascinating to me that you listen to me speak. Go fuck yourself.
The views of Brandon do not reflect the views of the podcast as a whole.
The views of Brandon do reflect the podcast at all times.
But what are we going to be talking about? A couple things. I had a discussion topic of just kind of a lighthearted thing. And then we might get into some leftist discussion of leftist infighting, and just like how shitty it is. Or Brandon might just continue to be a belligerent drunk, and we'll do a little leftist infighting on the podcast here.
Fuck you.
It begins.
Yeah.
Okay. A little background for tonight. They just fucking randomly messaged me like, hey, you want to go on call? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll be there in half an hour. And here we are. I didn't plan for this. I'm just a loud person that's drunk, and y'all can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for joining us, Brandon. You're always appreciated.
I don't want to be.
So the first topic I had for us to talk about is just... This is a hypothetical, open your mind palace to the possibilities of the future.
Wait, open my mind or like open my third eye?
Maybe a little bit of both. Let's start with the mind first, and then we'll go on from there.
I got the liquor, but let me go get the mushrooms.
Yeah, so depends on how much help you need with your imagination, I guess. Imagine we've had the workers' revolution. All everything that Richard Wolff talked about is come to pass. We have democracy in the workplace. The workers run the means of production, and you personally have been put in charge by the workers of a car factory, and you are the one making decisions on what kind of cars to make, what kind of engines to put in them, what to do with the future of this car factory. What do you do? What kind of cars do you make? There's no restrictions of intellectual property, so you can make a Mustang with a 2JZ engine. You can make a Corvette with a Duramax. Whatever the fuck you want.
Wrong. No, that's not allowed. Oh no!
Real quick, why would I ever want to make a Mustang with any engine?
Ooh! Ouch! Shots fired.
It's just a hypothetical, man. Just an example. You can make a reproduction of your favorite van with your favorite engine. I'm not judging.
Oh man, we were going to talk about leftists infighting, but we forgot about the car people
literally his
infighting.
worst characteristic.
What did you say, Brandon?
I don't know. I was listening to Connor.
Sorry.
I also don't know what he said because I was talking while I was listening to it. Welcome to Cars and Comrades. It's our most incoherent episode.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, we were going to talk about leftists infighting, but we forgot about car people infighting. My God.
Yeah.
How did we miss that?
Yeah, leftists act like they're special for having infighting. No. You guys like whatever, like multiple JZ engines, and I don't give a shit about that. I'm building an old motor. This thing went out of fucking popularity in '78. Fuck you guys.
Well, maybe there's a reason it went out of popularity.
600 fucking pound-feet of torque at 2,000 RPMs.
All right, so we've all got our own notions of what makes a good car, what makes a good engine.
Yes, and mine are right. You guys are wrong.
I guess before we get into that, I should have mentioned that Zach couldn't be here. He's doing he's like at a wedding or a birthday party. I don't know, whatever.
Well,
but
Zach has life, and he can't always be on the podcast on short notice.
Yeah. But I don't know, who wants to go first? Who's got a good idea for a car company?
I think Brian. I think you or Connor should go first because I want to criticize you guys.
All right. Well, I've got my own dumb idea that would make zero money and be a bad use of resources, but I want to do it anyway. So what I would start off doing is making carbon fiber and fiberglass reproduction body panels of hard to find like 80s and 90s sports cars like the MR2 and the Miata.
Okay, we'll add some other ones in there too. There's some good.
I want to make carbon fiber shit boxes.
Yes, that is my business plan. Carbon fiber shit boxes. Now,
okay, to be clear, I understand that my tone sounds critical, but I'm highly supportive of this.
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page. So,
this is excellent.
So we would start off making reproduction body panels and other hard to find pieces, to restore old, cars that got in a fender bender or whatever. Like right now with MR2s, with first gen MR2s, people are like 3D printing trim pieces because you can't find them from Toyota or junkyards or whatever. So like I would do that in a more formal, like, better quality control way. Maybe not 3D printing, but I don't know, whatever. And then once that's built up for a while, once we have the capacity, I would make entire carbon fiber body shells for the first generation MR2 and the maybe the Aichi-Roku, the Trueno Sprinter Corolla, the rear drive Corolla from the 80s. Maybe the front drive Corolla from the 80s.
No.
The AE82, 82? Yeah, 82, I think. Anything that had the A motor in it, maybe even a fucking Starlet that they never sold in the U.S.
What I'm hearing is, I'm the boss. Make parts for my car.
Yes, that's why I said this would never make any money in a capitalist sense, but I want to do it anyways. This is a vanity project for me.
I mean, it literally could, though.
You're the boss of a company, and you're building your personal racing team. Again, I understand that I sound super critical, but I highly support this. Killing it right now.
Okay.
Continue.
Thank you. And then what I would do after we've got every single part of an AW11 or any other vintage Toyota.
I don't know what those mean.
Chassis codes, whatever. So you can build an entire brand new MR2 from the ground up, piece by piece. Then I would start getting weird with it. Make an off-road all-wheel drive version, like the rally car that they almost built in the 80s. Maybe an electric or hybrid version. Maybe different engine swaps. Like people put Honda K-Series motors in those things. People put newer Toyota motors in those things. So like any of those shit, I would make like the mount kits and or just like a chassis cradle or whatever that goes into the fiberglass body or the
I am
carbon body
curious
shell.
because you left out the like be all end all of motors. Would you make a kit for an LS swap?
Actually, there's people doing that with MR2s. They usually have to cut a lot of metal out of it. So yeah, potentially. I mean,
that car is worthless in general. So like, cut out everything you need to so that you can put an LS in it.
Yeah, but if you're making it out of carbon fiber, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You know, you just make a new mold for it. Or whatever.
Can you imagine a carbon fiber MR2?
Oh yeah, no, it would weigh like 1,500 pounds, and
with an LS.
Yeah.
Downright dangerous.
I have genuinely thought of making carbon fiber van parts. So
yeah.
What you're saying sounds very reasonable to me.
Now, I think it would also be cool to make like carbon fiber bicycle frames or like motorcycles or something at the same time. Like while you have all the equipment for carbon fiber manufacturing, do like a little side business or whatever.
That's not weird. Carbon fiber is very popular in the bicycle world.
Yeah, totally. Now, so now we've gotten weird with it. We're doing engine swaps. We're doing, let's say we'll do like long travel off-road suspension and shit. Then we would start making, like combining different parts of Toyota cars to make models that Toyota never made. So,
yes. And they would all have a 2JZ.
No. I mean, maybe some of them, but not the ones I'm thinking of. They would all be A motors, A chassis, whatever. Uh-huh. You would have, the back half of an AW11 MR2, a first-gen MR2, it has like a vertical rear window and then like buttresses on the back that look kind of like an El Camino. And that got me thinking, what if you made a Toyota Corolla pickup truck with various parts of 80s Toyotas? So you would have like...
That's just an 80s Toyota pickup truck!
But not a body on frame.
Have you never seen ISIS before?
No, this is like an El Camino. This is a car-based pickup truck. So you would have...
I don't even know how the car that you're describing doesn't have a 50 caliber machine gun mounted to the bed.
I mean, I guess you could do that. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, the provision for mounting guns on the back of it, but
no. Now that I understand the nature of this game, I'm putting a 50 cal on every car I design.
Okay, sweet.
Okay.
So you'd have like the front half of a like an Aichi-Roku, like a Torino Sprinter Corolla rear drive, and then you'd have like the back bodywork of an MR2, maybe stretched out a little bit to be longer, so you could fit a whole truck bed in there. So you'd have
a 50 cal machine gun.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're a member of ISIS.
And maybe while we're being weird, we can do the the Subaru Brat rear-facing jump seats in the back, with no seat belts.
Wait, hold on. I'm not familiar with this at all.
So, okay.
Are you talking about the Australian shit?
Yeah, maybe we should. I don't know if we should do this like a full episode on this, but like
No, we should.
there, there was there is something called the chicken tax. I don't remember why it's called that,
Oh,
but
that's worth 2 or 3 full episodes. Yeah.
yeah, but it basically means that there's tariffs on importing pickup trucks to the U.S. So basically, every single pickup truck that's sold in the U.S. is built in the U.S., even if it's a Toyota or a Nissan or whatever.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
why
that makes
there's
sense.
so few import pickups available.
Yeah.
In the US.
Yeah, and where was I going with this?
I don't know. I keep interrupting you.
But the Subaru. So Subaru sold a car-based SUV called the Brat in the '80s. Ronald Reagan had one, and they got around this import tax by putting plastic seats in the truck bed and selling it as a passenger vehicle. So now most people took those seats out immediately when they bought it, but there's a few that you can find out there. They're terribly unsafe. I don't think most of them had seat belts. They just had a couple like grab handles to hold on
Seatbelts
to.
are a liberal conspiracy.
Yes, that's I'm sure what Ronald Reagan would have said about his. But
No, to be clear, I'm 100% joking about that specific thing.
All right, so I just looked this up. This is undeniably amazing. It should never have been, trying to get around any kind of like pickup truck restrictions because it doesn't look. It looks like an El Camino, but a Subaru version. This is amazing. This is
yeah,
Oh my god, this is incredible.
Wait,
I now
you're
want
not
one.
disparaging an El Camino right now, right?
Hmm?
No, I just want to be clear that you're not disparaging.
No,
the
no,
El
no,
Camino.
not at all. This is amazing.
Okay,
I
the
want
El
one
Camino
now.
is the apex of American engineering.
Yeah, it was. Yes, I agree.
As long as that's what you're getting at, we agree.
Yes, I don't want to disagree.
If you
so,
disagree,
yes.
I'm gonna keep yelling.
No, like I said, I agree. Subaru Brat. Now I need one. Jesus. All right. Cool.
yeah. From everything I've heard, they're pretty terrible cars. Like they're not that good off road, and they're not that good on road. They're pretty wimpy motors. They're not reliable. They rust out. They're pretty terrible at everything. But they're quirky and weird, and people like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Google image search disagrees on whether or not they're good off road, or at least people have made them better.
Yeah, I think they're about on par with like a low end side by side UTV or something like that.
Ouch.
Off road.
That's not a high premise for comparison.
Yeah.
Words.
But I don't know. That's about all I had for that car company. I think it would be kind of cool to do similar things with like a Miata, like maybe put the I forget the K something V6 that came in different other Mazdas. They never came in the Miata from the factory, but they fit. They could have done it.
They should have. Yeah.
Yeah,
They should have.
and same with the MR2. Like there's the like 1FE or something like that. The V6 that was in the Camry and stuff. Those fit pretty easily in at least the second generation MR2s. They'll bolt right up to the transmission. So maybe like, if we were doing second gen MR2s, I would have, that as an option. But there's another thing I came up with dreaming about MR2s is the Toyota Highlander hybrid has an electric motor integrated into the rear differential, and that's how it gets all-wheel drive. There's no drive shaft in between the engine and the rear differential, and it's got I don't know I think about 60 horsepower electric motor, and I think one of those in the front of an MR2 would be a good combination. So have like a hybrid MR2 that's all-wheel drive, and maybe like an off-road long travel suspension with double
sorry,
air.
I got quiet for a moment because I thought my mom was talking.
Now, don't get me wrong; it would still have a manual transmission and some kind of an engine in the back. It would still be mid-engine.
Some kind of an engine.
Yes, yeah. either the V6, the Honda K series, or a Toyota 2ZZ, something along those lines.
Or maybe a big block Chevy.
Yeah, maybe an LS6 or something with a supercharger.
Wildly different than a big block Chevy, but yeah, whatever.
I mean, what? Well, I mean, there is an LS there is like a 7-liter LS, right? That's almost a big block, right? I don't know how that qualifies. What the qualification is for a big block, right?
Okay, I'm drunk, so bear with me. What the fuck is a liter?
Like what, 90 something cubic inches, I want to say.
Yeah, okay, so here's your frame of reference, right? Your Chevy small block is a typical 5.7, right? Same with your
Okay. That's a 350.
Yes. And so then you move up to like I forget what the current Chevy 6.2 liter. That's probably what 383, I think, or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I know that the 6.2 is under 400 cubic inches.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yes.
I'm not holding anything that I can look this shit up on.
I misspoke. 1 liter is 61 cubic inches, and I believe 7 liters is 427 cubic inches.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. 7 liters usually 427 or 428. So GM and Ford both had a 7-liter way back in the day.
In terms of a big block Chevy, a 427 is for bitches.
Whoa, is it?
Hey.
Yes, a 427 says, I want to rev high, but I don't want to make any power.
I mean,
really?
They make, what, 700 or 800 horsepower with the newer ones, don't they?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you want to get a 632, it'll make 1,500 horsepower. Fuck it.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
sure. But back in the day, I mean, the 7-liter was like what you'd find in like the highest trim Corvettes and stuff, I think, right?
Yeah.
Way back in the day.
But counter argument, fuck those cars.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
You're just going with the bigger is better sort of argument.
No, I'm going with the I'm very drunk, and everything that you guys say is going to be wrong no matter what argument.
Okay.
Okay, I love it.
It's not okay, you don't love it. No,
well,
like, if I'm being serious, this is an argument I get into a lot with people. Back in the day, there was a very specific limit to what you could stroke things to. So the 427 was very popular because it revved super high. Nowadays, metallurgy has improved to the point where you can make a 454 or a 496 or a 502 or a 570 or 632 rev just as fucking high as a 427 used to.
What did the 427 used to rev to? Probably around 6,000 back in the day.
Again, I was aware of this Zoom call like 20 minutes before I got onto it. I don't know. I think a 427 still maxed out at around $8,000.
This is saying, yeah, about 7,500 to $8,000.
Yeah.
Well, that's if you modified it, right? Like, if you I think the factory redline would have been much lower, I would think.
Yeah, I think around 6,000.
Because even a small block was lower, was around 6,000, I think, always.
Small block, big block, it doesn't mean shit. Okay, you guys want me to be not drunk and actually mathematical for a moment? I can do that.
Let's do it.
A 427 was limited by piston speed.
Okay.
Nowadays, metallurgy has gotten to the point where a 454 or 496, which is the same bore as, specifically in a Chevy, it's the same bore at within 60 thousandths of the same bore, but it's a higher stroke. And so, you have to limit piston speed because if your piston is going too fast, then you have some catastrophic failure. Now, metallurgy has overcome that. So, people reminisce about the 427 if it's a big block, or the 377, or the 350, or the 327 if it's a small block. And the reality is that the longer stroke will make more power. It just does not do it in My daily driver is a 327, and I wish to God it was a 383. Because if they stroked it instead of de-stroked it, I would get better fuel mileage, better low-end torque, and with the right metallurgy in terms of pistons and rods, I can also rev higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I think generally speaking, like the if you have a like the bore to stroke ratio changes the character of the engine quite a bit. So like if
Yeah,
you
but
have
so is
a
the rod to stroke ratio, and that's the important part.
yeah, but like I think generally speaking, if you have a smaller bore and a longer stroke and a longer rod, it's going to be more torquey, more low revving, and like you said, it can be typically more efficient. Um, and then if you have a bigger bore, a shorter stroke, and maybe a shorter rod, it can rev higher because there's less piston speed, less I forget exactly the physics behind it, but it's
You guys are familiar with the concept of over square or under square, right?
I forget which is which though.
Yeah, I've come across it.
Okay, fair enough. An under square motor means that the stroke is shorter than the bore is wide. An over, or rather, a perfectly square motor has the same bore and stroke.
Okay.
And an over square motor has a longer stroke than the bore is wide. So an under square motor could rev so much higher than a square or over square motor that the power output was higher. What's the
Okay.
best way to explain this? A 302, a 327, a 350, and a 383 Chevy are all the same bore of motor,
Yeah.
but they're different strokes. Now, the 302 was made to be a race motor, so it had to fit certain displacement characteristics. The 327, not so much. That was just a shorter stroke motor, so it revved super, super high. Because when you look at the characteristics of a short stroke and a large bore, dude, this shit is so hard to explain when you're drunk, but I am right. I do know this.
You're right so far.
Yeah. The 327 and 350 both made like good, like horsepower and torque numbers. But when you stroke a motor to 383, all other things being equal, it makes more torque and less horsepower. If you build pistons and rods that can handle higher RPMs, you have a 383 that can rev just as high as a 350, 383, or 302. So, all other things being equal, you're making more power per per revolution of the piston, and you can rev just as high. Like, fuck, dude, I don't know. Do our listeners understand that the formula for calculating horsepower is torque multiplied by RPM divided by 5252? If you do, understand that you can never, ever, ever make more horsepower than you make torque below 5,250 RPMs. At that point, if you can make big, big tons of power past that, like
That
rev limit,
RPM.
yeah, that's when you start making serious horsepower. So all you've got to do is build pistons and rods that can handle super high RPMs. And there's a million ways to do that with metallurgy, with ratios, and so on and so forth. I really lost the thread here. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, Brandon, I don't know, or I don't know, either one of you, would you have a do you have a an idea of what you would do for your car factory that you're running?
That's what we were talking about? Oh, fuck. I know. I'm still on board here. Connor, you go first, man. I'm going to criticize your shit before I start saying my stuff.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right. So I initially, when we started this, when we were talking about doing this topic, I actually thought, what would you do? Kind of like today, before we've had a workers' revolution or whatever, how would you run things? Which really is pretty much the same as I would after revolution, so it doesn't really matter that much. But in theory, after an ideal revolution, we'd be doing better than simple worker co-ops. But yeah, I would. Of course, the first step would be make it a workers' co-op.
Yeah, I was being a little facetious when I was talking about Richard Wolff there. I guess
I mean,
that's not the end point of society that I am necessarily looking for.
yeah, yeah, same here. But
It's not the end point, but I'm not going to throw shade at Richard Wolff, dude. I respect him. Right?
No,
oh,
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a world where we're still having these kinds of factories that produce this thing, I'm assuming we have not reached post-scarcity communism yet. So, because that's almost an inconceivable. Like, I wouldn't even almost know where to begin. Like, that's just so far off to. People would have very different ideas then. So,
Wait, you're saying we haven't reached post-scarcity communism?
what?
Huh?
I'm sorry. Like, I didn't understand the statement.
I was just saying, I think things would be different enough if we've like reached the end goal that we're all kind of going for. We would be
shit. Yeah, 100%.
yeah, things would be just so different. So before that, I'm fine with we've had some kind of, whether it's just we've got more worker co-ops or whatever. First step would be make it a workers co-op. In theory, yeah, let's say they elect me to be in charge, and whatever, it is what it is. The way I would run such a business would be generally to take the approach that let's kind of work smarter, not harder. So instead of having a whole lot of different engines, we could probably use a lot of the same engines and like engineer them very well, but use them among most of our fleet and also use them for a relatively long time, maybe with some improvements here and there. So like car companies do this to a certain extent now, but there isn't. I feel like they sometimes have more engines that they've engineered, but they also don't offer that many engine options like in a car. So like cool, Toyota might make 10 different engines, but like each car might have 2 engine options.
Right.
I'm like, to me, that's a lot of engineering for not a lot of reward. I would rather have, say, 4 or 5 good engines, and every car would have 3, 4, or 5 whatever engine options, and they're just really well engineered. Would be the goal.
Can I go off on a little bit of a tangent here?
No.
Yeah.
Well, we democratically elected that I can, so I that's one of the things about capitalism that I just find so wasteful is that every single car company on earth is making their own variation on like a 2-liter straight 4 engine with twin cams.
Why?
Like,
why?
Or like a 5-liter V8 or whatever. Like they're all have like teams of probably dozens or maybe even hundreds of engineers working for years developing these engines when they could just collaborate and make the same shit and make it good. Like,
yeah,
because
they all leak oil. They all fuck up. They all have these problems. And you're like, God damn it, give us one good fucking engine, for Christ's sake. Put a 2JZ in everything, or an LS in everything. Just fucking come on. Get it right the first fucking time. Yes.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't know, probably Honda makes some of the best 4-cylinder engines out there. Like, if they just made every single 4-cylinder engine, and then, like, maybe Chevy made every single V8 or whatever, like, that would be fine with me. Like, who cares? Like, as long as you have a good design, like, just fucking stick with it. Like, we don't need, Peugeot and Chrysler and Ford all making basically the same shit, just different variations.
Dude, on that topic, we don't need like 8 different car companies using the same motor. Like in a lot of different platforms, like, I don't know, man. Take take Mopar for example. You've got like Chrysler and Dodge and Ram all using the Hemi platform.
Yeah.
Or like more conservatively, the like I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I think it's like 240 or 265 aluminum V8 that goes in a lot of Land Rovers and a lot of British cars. That was also in a lot of like 60s and 70s Oldsmobiles and Buicks.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't need 8 different car companies using the same motor. Like,
Why not? Just because.
Because fuck your choice. You don't
Okay.
need a million options to like validate who you are as a person. Buy a goddamn truck that makes the power you need.
Yeah.
Buy a car that goes fast. I don't know. Again, very drunk right now. Strong opinions, little information.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like in the same segment, like if you have a Dodge Ram, a Chevy Silverado, and a Ford F-150, they're all going to be very similar, like in what they do. Like, probably one's going to have better like tow rating, one's going to have better horsepower, one's going to get better mileage or whatever. But like if all those engineering teams, combine forces,
Collaborated instead of competed.
exactly,
That's really what it comes down to. That we should organize an economy around that principle.
Yeah, you're wasting thousands of man hours.
Listeners can't see my face, but it is in extreme agreement.
Yeah. Now, again, like in this discussion, I feel like we're talking about how would we run a company, which is not necessarily like, oh, yes, in this ideal world, yeah, we would all collaborate. And like we would have that. So I agree 100%. In this hypothetical example, I'm not sure if that's like what's happening, but like I would institute something like that for within the company. Like you have these engineering teams and it's like, let's kind of reuse, like, you can use the same motor around and you can just, maybe you have a different cylinder head design for this one or that one. But like a lot of car companies, there's a lot of waste. There really is.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of companies like they put out these cars and again, hindsight's 2020. I'm not saying it's, of course it's easy to sit here and say how I would do it, but like there's a lot of cars throughout history. Everyone can think of one that like never quite met up to the expectations. A good example is sometimes the Miata, which was great for what it was, but like they really always should have had a turbo option, or they should have had a V6 offering,
or a hardtop. Like
controversial opinion: the second gen Hemi never lived up to its potential.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, I could see that.
I don't know a whole lot about the second gen Hemi, to be honest.
Man, you want another 20-minute fucking tangent?
I don't know about 20 minutes.
It's a really good design. It just didn't meet its full potential. That's all.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of exactly like that's the thing I'm talking about. Is like there's all these engines, all these cars that just never quite. That there's this need to make this profit, and it really gets in the way of like what could have been. Like they cut costs in like, oh well, the Miata's fine the way it is. And it's like everyone for the last 30 years has said, God, just a little more fucking power. Like it wouldn't take much,
or a little bit better chassis rigidity.
Has the consumer ever said the Miata is good?
What?
No, I'm just reaffirming what you said.
Oh,
at no point has a consumer ever said that the Miata is good.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's good in a lot of ways, but there are definitely ways that it's lacking.
It's bad in every way.
Yes, essentially.
Yes. Listeners can't see this. Brian is nodding in agreement.
No, I mean the Miata is a good car. It's not a great car. Let's say
it's bad.
It's bad at some things. It's not. It does handling very well. It could have better chassis rigidity.
It's actually very good at being a bad car.
It's you gotta compromise somewhere when you're making a sports car. You can't have everything. But
Yeah. So with the Miata, they compromised at even the concept of making a sports car.
Back to that old
all right,
debate.
well, we'll
Um,
rehash that argument
but-
another time, maybe.
I fully recognize that in terms of engines, I am the most reactionary person on the podcast. I love you all dearly. I'm very drunk. Miatas are stupid. Whatever.
Now, I will say that a Miata with a good old American pushrod V8, preferably an aluminum block one,
Okay,
from what I've heard, huh?
That means LS.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
That is a good combination from what I've heard. I've never driven one, but from what I've heard,
They're
it's
hot right now.
basically, yeah, it's the successor to like a 427 Cobra or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's a light car with a big engine. Um,
I have
And if-
seen a Miata that's been LS swapped. Nothing I owned would ever keep up on it.
oh yeah, no, they're quick little things, but you gotta basically replace the entire drivetrain, and that's gonna be at least like $20,000 in parts and everything. So
Disagree.
yeah.
You could do it a little
Um,
cheaper, I think. But
Yeah, no, I mean, there's people that put like 5-liter Mustang motors in there. That's pretty cheap, but you don't get as good performance.
If you gave me a Miata, I could probably LS swap it, drive like rear end and everything for $5,000.
Okay.
Probably.
I don't know, that
I mean,
that's a little low, but
does that include the
thing.
rear end and everything also? And
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I paid $400 for the rear end that's going in my '69 Chevy, and that is a good fucking rear end.
You'd be putting a solid rear axle in a Miata though?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I'm not cool with that.
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Then I would spend a different $400 on an 8.8 Ford.
Okay. If you can,
That's
yeah.
also a solid axle, isn't it?
Okay, I don't know what year they changed, but the 8.8 became a. It was a solid rear axle until a certain year.
Okay.
And then it became an IRS.
Oh, okay.
So, no.
Okay.
No, like, I buy everything from swap meets and junkyards. So when people tell me, like, oh, you need $40,000 to do this thing, I say, actually, I have $800 and I'm going to accomplish your thing.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, I saw a guy that swapped a Chrysler Slant 6 into a Miata. So,
Nice.
people have done some weird things.
The Leaning Tower of Power.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
But
I love reactionary shit, like, in terms of motors. I do. But, like, the reality is, you like, if you're a poor person, you gotta love junkyards and you gotta love swap meets.
yeah, definitely.
Like, dude, the van that I'm building, which I am building to balls out drag race, we're trying to get it in the 11-second range for $5,000. That includes the rear end and the motor. I am currently $2,500 to $3,000 into that van, and I have a full rear end transmission and drivetrain for something that should run low 11s. So when somebody tells me you need $20,000 to do something, I tell them they can go fuck themselves, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it is
Yeah, I
doable,
mean-
I guess.
Yeah. If you know where to look and you know where to get stuff out of what vehicle or whatever, yeah, definitely.
Like the weird old adage of like what is it? Fast, good, and cheap. Pick two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real. If you're willing to take your time and cruise swap meets and cruise junkyards and like spend your precious like extra time, you can find a Corvette 12 volt that is an IR like an independent rear. You can find an 8.8 that's an independent rear. They're not that hard to find, and they can handle a decent amount of power.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But
I paid $600 for the Ford 9-inch with 430 gears and drags like 15 or 16-inch wide drag slicks for $600. And
Man,
then I
that's a
pulled my
steal.
big block out of a junkyard for $400.
What was I going to say? Connor, we kind of interrupted you. What did you have more to say about your ideal car factory situation?
Yeah, probably. Let me think. Yeah, all right.
Ooh,
So I
is there
kind
a
of got
cool
where
car
I'm.
factory pulling everything out of a junkyard?
No. So it would just be essentially trying to make cars that are a lot like Legos, in which like pretty much every car could, in theory have most engine options available. And like, yeah, I'd go with higher trim levels. So like, yeah, here's this like economy car that is perfect for most people. And like here it is with our stupid over ridiculously engineered V8. The race model, whatever. I would offer all those just because I think it would be fun and it's easier, right? If you made things kind of standard and like you almost use this economies of scale kind of model where it's like I produce enough that like it doesn't really cost me that much. For the most part, every engine bay is going to be engineered to fit just about any of these engines. The motor mounts would go in relatively the same place on most of them. Stuff like that. You can give a lot of options for very little engineering. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
personally, if I ran a car factory, like I'd have been doing hybrid technology a lot sooner than a lot of these car makers, and I would have been doing it on my sports cars. Because like they came out with these hybrids. Oh, here's our hybrid, whatever, and it's for the eco-friendly person. I'm like, yo, I'd have the eco-friendly sports car that like, yeah, I'm gonna shred you with, that
Yeah.
like
That
the car
has like
makers
300
were.
foot-pounds of torque or whatever.
Yeah, they were slow to the game. I mean, really,
Yeah.
like hybrid technology is. I'm like, you could have been making like, and this technology was in motorsports. Like, I'm pretty sure like there was hybrid stuff going on with like F1 teams and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, they call it
put it in the
KERS, kinetic energy recovery
yeah,
system. Yeah.
yeah,
Dude, isn't the Koenigsegg that's like 12 or 1400 horsepower a fucking
yes.
hybrid?
So a lot of the like biggest like hypercars and shit were doing this before a lot of the automakers, and it's like, hey, wake up, do that. Like, take your V6 like thing that's making 300 horsepower, and then add 100 horsepower at the front wheels with an electric motor.
Yeah.
Boom! You're gonna
Oh.
kick every Mustang's ass in a fucking like. It's just like you can kick ass among these big, engine cars, and like be like, yeah, we're actually more, ecologically friendly. We're better on your wallet, and we're faster, and we handle better at the racetrack. Like you can. There's so
And
many
that's-
missed opportunities with these car companies. It's like, come on.
And like I said with the Toyota Highlander hybrid, like that seems like I don't know why there's more car companies not like I don't understand why there's more car companies not doing that right now. Like you don't need like having a drive shaft from one end of the car to the other seems like a waste when you could just have some electrical cables and some batteries and stuff. Like
it's like
have fewer moving parts, fewer mechanical things.
Yeah, the technology's been there. It has been there, and it wasn't marketed well either. Like, there's all this like, oh, there's this, especially in the United States, because we're a shitty country and we have real problems with like this weird toxic masculinity where it's like, oh, you can't be a cool guy and drive a hybrid. It would be a little bit different if your sports cars came out with hybrids first or at the same time.
You don't understand. If my truck doesn't make 600 pound-feet of torque, my dick is small.
Well, and just imagine it could do that. Like what I'm talking about is like it would have made that easier to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of car companies have been really late, and to me, again, it shows the kind of problems with capitalism where it's like because you're doing things for profit, the consumer is not getting the best vehicle. It is the environment is suffering, and we could have had cars that were faster, better, more efficient. Like we could have had all this stuff, and so I think if I were in charge, I'd be running a place that was like, let's focus on that kind of stuff. Let's Let's not have those regrets of, oh, did our sports car have a bigger engine option? We would have it. That's the kind of way I would approach things that, and I'd be big on hybrid technology and, electric cars and stuff now, but I would approach it as like, let's give people the option to do this. And of course, let's have workers who are invested in the company. Like, I don't want to, happy workers are good for the company. Like, you don't have to crush people into fucking dust. Turns
True.
out that doesn't work for producing good vehicles. It just doesn't. And so if you were the company that was doing better for your workers, it would pay for it would more than pay for itself. I also wouldn't, if I were running the company, I wouldn't do a whole lot of advertising, or differently than a lot of other car companies do it, because I think there's been studies that show, like, all those car commercials you see on TV and shit, those do not actually sell new cars. Not really. The effect of those commercials is to reduce buyer's remorse and to create brand loyalty. And so that's kind of like, it's weird that it doesn't have the normal intended effect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would probably not spend millions of dollars on that, because I'm pretty sure, like, you can get those things in other ways. Like, make a good car. That would stop buyer's remorse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of skeptical of the whole idea of marketing in general. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just because I really hate commercials and I try to avoid them whenever possible. Like, I've got all the ad blocker stuff on all the browsers and everything. I just try to avoid commercials.
Well,
I don't
no,
know.
they do.
I don't know
So
what
they
it
do
is,
work. Here's how it works. Let me explain.
Okay.
It doesn't work on you individually every time, but it works on you 1%, right? So 1% of those ads is going to get you just enough.
Yeah.
And because of, like, the law of big numbers, when you just multiply this across, like, how many people are in the US? 320 something million people?
Something like
Yeah.
that.
1%'s a big fucking number.
Okay.
The truth is, most of these ads, it just creates an atmosphere where this stuff happens. Like, there is marketing. I hate capitalism. I want to be clear. I hate everything about it. I hate marketing. I hate that there are people who are paid to know this shit. But there is some fascinating things about marketing. I've learned is stupid shit like, oh, people's eyes tend to drift to the right. Like, and so you put the more expensive product on the right. That's cool, interesting stuff. It's stupid that we have people working on that, right? It's like, what a
Yeah.
weird world in which that's how we spend human beings' intelligence. Like, that we
Yeah.
waste it on such silly things, but, like, it is interesting at the very least. And they do have data to back up that a lot of that stuff works. But it's wasteful for sure. And it's unnecessary. And so I don't think I would take that same approach. If I were running the company, I think I would try and take a different approach from other companies, because they're all doing it one way. You should differentiate yourself, would kind of be how I would think. So, that kind of stuff, I think, makes a bit of a difference. And, that's kind of how I would do it. I'd also, if I were in charge, I would create a part of my car company that made all the performance parts. So, like, yeah, there can be other performance companies out there, but, like, I would have our engineering teams figure out the best way to make aftermarket parts, and we'd own that company too. That would give us a certain amount of control in the market, but also, it's when someone does a dope ass modified version of our car, in a lot of ways it's still, our engineering, and it can be done in a way that, like, just imagine how many aftermarket kind of setups would be improved if they actually worked with the engineering team of the vehicle and they engineered the vehicle with that in mind. Imagine the possibilities.
Okay.
So if
I
you
could
kind
see
of
that.
had both, yeah, if you had kind of a little bit of that kind of control, you could really do some pretty interesting things, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I know
Like,
there
and they
are
kind of
some.
do it to they do it to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, like
There's
but
there's some aftermarket companies that have a working relationship with an OEM
yeah.
car manufacturer that they give them the CAD models or the data or whatever
Yep.
beforehand, and yeah.
Yeah,
But
but see, I would want to have that kind of somewhat in house. Not that I would be selfish about it, like, oh, no one else can have the plans. I wouldn't care, but like, I would. That would be a part of how we engineered the vehicle. More so on the performance models, but again, because the engines that we'd be using are well engineered and used in every vehicle, the grocery getter might have the same engine and the same kind of setup as the race, one of the sport car models. But
Makes
like,
sense though, dude. The grocery getter and the fucking race car can be two of the same engine with different cams, and they're
yeah,
different motors.
yeah, or at least like the same body shell and like suspension parts, maybe the
yeah,
same
and
basic parts, but yeah.
and it comes down to like, you can put, so like, I talk about the 2JZ all the time, and yeah, it's a great engine and everything, but really it was super fucking reliable. They did put that engine in some grocery getters in non-turbo form. They didn't necessarily keep some of the same internals, but like, yeah, it would be really cool if your grocery getter, your Toyota Camry, had a straight six, really well balanced engine. Maybe it doesn't have the turbo on it, right? But like, you could still use good, strong internals and have an engine that's made to take abuse and doesn't get abuse. That's an engine that lasts 400,000 miles. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
so you,
and then maybe if you have that aftermarket division, they could make the turbo kit if you really want to turn your
yeah.
grocery getter into the race car.
I mean, how easy would that be? You're not
Mm.
reinventing the wheel over and over again. So like, there's all these ways. It's like, yes, you can. People think, oh well, capitalism is good at this, capitalism is good at that. It's like, well, actually, it's remarkably inefficient. When you really think about
Capitalism
it.
ain't good at shit. Pick anything capitalism did, and communism did it better.
Yeah, no, really, that's true, and it's, you can say like, okay, and everyone's like, oh, well, how would you do it? And they kind of have that retort of like, oh, I bet, and it's like, no, it's actually really easy. You can cut out. Capitalism has so much waste and so much. There's engineering teams and they're all working on the same shit, and you're like, dude, you can consolidate a lot of that fucking work and spend it well, make something better for less money. Like, you can do better shit with less. And it's because of competition that's impossible. It's because that they, it's funny. It's like their cost cutting measures actually, in some ways, cause the capitalists to spend more. Again, this is back to the idea that capitalists are their own gravediggers. I mean, they'll spend so much fucking money trying to save money that they spend more trying to do it. And you're like, hey, just make a good vehicle, or make a good product, whatever it is. Just don't spend so much time trying to cut the fucking corners. Like, they hire a specialist. We're brought in a specialist to figure out all this, how to treat workers just a little bit worse and how to cut just the right corners. And you're like, maybe don't hire that company and just do the thing that is good. Like, try that maybe.
Yeah, or
Fucking
what?
we can't treat workers better.
Or they're
They
like
might realize they're people.
One thing that reminded me of is I was listening to a podcast years ago with Gail Banks. I might have told this story on the show before, but whatever, fuck it. So Gail Banks, Banks makes like turbo equipment mostly for diesel vehicles nowadays. But he got to start with like offshore powerboat racing, I believe, and just got into turbo technology a lot sooner than anyone else. And he was consulted by General Motors when they were developing their turbo cars, like in the late 70s, I believe. So like the turbo Trans Am that was pretty shitty.
Or the Grand National.
Yeah, which was less shitty. But so with the turbo Trans Am, the he was like, okay, so you're going to put this turbo on it. You probably want to have an intercooler, and then you want to probably use like the Bosch K-Jectronic fuel injection system. It's a good system. It works for Volvo. It's great for turbo setups. And they're like, that sounds like it costs a lot of money. Why don't we just put a quadrajet on it and call it good and have a draw through turbo? And
Okay, I'm not going to have anyone disparage the quadrijet carburetor in front of me.
I mean, for this application, it was not as good as fuel injection because you're not.
I will accept that specific thing.
Yeah, because you're not able to use an intercooler to get rid of the excess heat from the turbocharger because it's a draw-through setup. You have weird shit with like vacuum and your fuel ratios are going to be a little bit wonky at certain levels.
I did concede this point.
Yeah, no, I'm just explaining for the listener. Why is it bad to?
I have 2 quadrijets on my bench that need rebuilt right now as we speak. So I'm a little salty. That's it.
No, they're great for NA engines, but not for 1970s turbo technology.
Actually, for 1970s turbo technology, they might be the best option. But by the 80s, I will concede that they had been bested.
Yeah. But I guess the point what I was trying to make is the General Motors, I don't know, executives, higher ups, accountants, whatever, basically said we can save, $50 per unit per car on this by putting a turbocharger on it rather than fuel injection. It'll make the car worse. It'll have a lot less power. It'll get worse fuel economy. It'll probably be less reliable, but we'll save money on the production side, And that kind of attitude, I think, maybe it's a little less prevalent than it was in the 70s, but it's definitely baked into capitalism, generally speaking, that that cost-cutting, corner-cutting thing that Connor was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yo, is it my turn?
Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are ready for what like a car company under my personal dictatorship looks like?
I'm glad you used that word because I have a feeling that's what it's going to turn out to be.
Yeah, should we be worried?
Nah, dude, because this is a dictatorship of the fucking proletariat.
Woo!
Y'all get no new cars, period. That's it. That's my rules.
No new cars?
Nah, we go to the junkyard, we save everything. We're going to lose money like it's going out of fucking style. And the
This
reason
sounds like a Porter's
is
fantasy.
losing money, going out of style. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. This is communism we're talking about here. Instead of worrying about money, we're going to worry about like the material resources that we have to work with. We're going to go to every junkyard. You got rear-ended and your car got totaled, we're stealing the motor. Your motor blew up, we're stealing the chassis. I'm not fucking kidding here. My neighborhood got fucked recently, like in the last 5 years, because developers decided that it was cheaper to tear down a bunch of houses than it was to rebuild them, because the man hours added up a lot more than the actual material resources to rebuild those houses did. I'm not letting that shit happen with cars under my fucking dictatorship. You like
it?
You like a 1989 Celica? Cool. We're going to go find one of those and put it in the fucking shop, and we're going to make sure that everything is good on it, and we're going to rebrand that or resell that or just not do any of that shit and say, hey, here's a freshly rebuilt 1989 Celica.
I like that. I do like reproductions of old cars because, like, we've had a lot of really cool cars. I feel like you could just reproduce a lot of them and maybe even make some improvements here and there. But, like, I like the idea of old shit, like, is brand new. Like, go ahead, just fix it up. It's fine. Make it work.
Yeah. Dude, there's, like, not to be a fucking asshole, but there is absolutely no reason in the fucking world that another car ever needs to be made within the next 100 years. We've made enough. Yeah. There has been, like, hundreds of millions of small block Chevys made. there is enough shit in the world where it might currently not be financially profitable to save everything, but when you start having situations where the ocean's on fire and the fucking forest is on fire and literally everything around you in the world is on fire, like maybe you worry less about money and more about the fact that like everything around you is on fire. So you start scouring the junkyards, and people are like, "Yo, why are you doing that? Like, you're a car company. You shouldn't be just at every local junkyard in the U.S." And I'm like, counter argument: go fuck yourself. You're counter-revolutionary to the gulags with
you. To be fair, Brandon, it would probably be easier if you just had an agreement with these junkyards to call the company when they've had shit to go and get.
Yes, but then I don't get to put people in the gulags.
Oh, that's true. Okay, all right. I didn't know that was a big part of the thing. Okay, gotcha.
That is 80% of this.
You know, this reminds me. I was thinking.
Gulag. That 1989 eclipse, that was a trap. Gulag.
Okay, so maybe we won't put you in charge of the gulag sentencing.
No, you put me in charge of the car company so that de facto I control the gulag.
Wait, hold on. I'm pretty sure the workers would then quickly recall you and put you back on the production floor if it was all gulags.
Connor, I love you, but you're stupid. You have clearly not been watching the PragerU videos about how communism works.
You know what? I'm not exactly as familiar as I once was.
Me either, because they're idiots and I don't respect them. With them, no. I'm not even considering their opinions. Gulag.
I'm with it.
No. Joking aside, there literally is enough stuff in the junkyards of America to make a generation of fucking cars, and I think that the emphasis needs to be less on, like, production's the wrong word, but, like, salvation. Like they did with the fucking Lada in the Soviet Union. If it broke, you didn't throw it away and send it to the scrapyard and get a new one. You sent it to the factory to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be a lot more emphasis on keeping things on the road than scrapping things and getting new stuff on the road. Like, if you're the dude who's waiting on the next, 2022 Escalade, with you, gulag.
Yep.
For the rest of us, yo, take the car that you can get. Is it super cool? I don't know. Maybe not. That's on you. We'll give you a working car, and you want to modify it? Good on you. Do your best. We're just trying to get you to work on Monday.
I feel like, suggestion here.
If you don't get to work on Monday, gulag.
Well, I mean, here's where I'd make one kind of suggestion, because old engines have a tendency to pollute more than newer ones. But I feel like if you, when a car has had it's had its life, instead of scrapping it, you can use a lot of that. A lot of that stuff is good and ready to be refurbished, and you could still design new drivetrain options and kind of retrofit those. So maybe go.
I'm going to pull you out of the gulag and put you into the engineering department.
Good, great.
They did that with NASA, not NASA, whatever the fucking Soviet space program was.
Yes, yeah, they did.
Yeah, there was a dude in the gulag, and instead he got them to space. Listen, I don't condone everything that the Soviet Union did, just 99% of it. All I'm saying here is, in terms of cars, uncritical support for Stalin.
That might be the best statement that's ever been made on this podcast.
Actually, Now that I've yelled that, I understand why our listener cap is like 300 or 400 people.
Yeah, there's probably a limit to what we can achieve here.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
joking aside, the fundamental principle, if I were in charge of whatever hypothetical car company, would be to save things because, like again, we're not joking here, so I have to stop making stupid statements that are like, me fucking supporting Stalin because, like, I don't 100%. Okay, like 99% support Stalin, but not like 100%. Whatever. No, like a huge thing that people don't take into account is like if you have a car, there is a lot of extraction involved in mining the
yes.
iron, mining the aluminum, smelting the iron, smelting the aluminum, refining, production of certain alloys and stuff. And is it equivalent to what the gas output of an inefficient motor is? Yes or no? I've seen different research, and I'm not going to support either one without me personally doing additional research. But I think the reality is we can eliminate a huge amount of waste if we just go to the junkyards of America or whatever country you're in and start saving things instead of scrap. Like, dude, one of my coworkers literally this week didn't have his truck because it was brand new and he got a dent in it and he had to take it to the body shop. Shut up. If your truck has a dent in it, drive it because fuck you.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
better ways to spend our resources than making sure every car is pristine when we can potentially make sure that, like, yo, maybe that 1987 Blazer that you really like is a complete hunk of shit that's rotting into the ground. Fucking take it to my engineers. We will redo it, and, like, I don't know. I like the actual on the ground economics of it, how it works. I don't know, but I know that, like, if you have a truck that you really like that's getting 8 miles to a gallon, bring it to us. We'll patch it up for you. We'll fucking smear some Bondo on it, repaint it, and throw an electric drivetrain in it that's getting you 16 or 18 or 22 miles to a gallon. And miles to a gallon maybe doesn't even apply here because I'm speaking from a perspective where we're doing our absolute fucking best to do solar and wind and tidal energy to produce electric for the fucking motors I'm putting in shit. Yeah. I don't like scrapping anything. And so, you know what? Fuck it. That 1970 Super Bee that you really liked and you love and had a 446 pack that got 6 miles to a gallon, well, you can still love that car. We're going to put an electric motor in it, and maybe it's got a 240-mile range, and live with it. It looks
Well,
super
no,
cool.
in a lot of cases, it'll go faster
Yeah.
than it ever did. We can
It'll
do
go so
better.
much faster.
Yeah.
What?
I said it will just go so much faster.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like exactly like you said, we don't need to keep producing the bodies of cars and shit. Like it's just that
Yeah.
there's a lot of waste in that, and we've made enough. Find one you,
You know-
like and good enough.
That reminds me of a couple things I was thinking of. Like, I was definitely thinking, like, if we were going to transition to, like, electric cars.
Critical support for Stalin. You all heard it here. Bryant is saying it. I respect it.
Sure. Maybe not 99%, but, he did some things good, like killed a lot of Nazis. But I don't know what his car policy was.
Jong-un to make all cars. You heard it here.
So the thing I was thinking of is like, yeah, like what you said, like there should be electric retrofit kits for old cars.
Yeah.
And, for the listener, we might actually have someone on from a company that's doing that right now. Still tentative. So, we'll see. And I don't know when we're going to publish this episode.
We also don't know when this episode's going to come out. So
Yeah,
it could be
yeah.
the episode right after that already happens.
So maybe we'll just edit this out. But anyways,
This episode is going to take 4 weeks just to edit. Tonight, and I will not back down. I know a junkyard 30 minutes from here with 6 Dodge Darts in it. You want an electric dart? We got you. Come to my car company.
But
I love
like,
it. That's a pitch. You've got me sold.
but like, everyone keeps talking about like, oh, we need to switch over to like electric cars, but like the average American car lasts like 10 or 15 years on the road, and people aren't going to want to give up their gas cars and buy a whole new car. And it's like, well, they don't need to buy a whole new car. You can just fucking drop the engine and transmission and gas tank and all that shit out. And, if you had a
car, that's cool. Gulag.
or public transit. That was the other thing I was thinking of.
Not gulag. You can
building
take public transit to the gulag.
Yes.
That's fair. I like that. That's options there.
But one of my ideas for public transit is to just take like truck chassis and put them on trains and have like you just open the door of an F-150 and get in the cab of an F-150 that's like nose to tail with another cab of an F-150 on a train. And that's your public transit. Now, maybe this is a terrible idea, but like if we have a whole bunch of F-150 bodies and not enough train cars, rather than melting them down, I don't know, why don't we just combine them somehow?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's an idea that ignorant, stupid Americans are not going to be on board with. But counter solution, gulag.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm okay with the gulag. Yes.
It occurs to me only in this moment how authoritarian I am when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the anarchist approach. There is like, hey, you know what? We recognize our own authoritarian tendencies. Maybe we should create systems that don't require someone to be in charge.
Counter argument. I recognize my own authoritarian tendencies. Make a gulag.
Yes. All of my ideas are good. Everyone should follow what I have to say.
Brian understands?
Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page.
100%. Anarcho-Bidenism. Capitalism is completely bad. Also, it is just exploitation, but with competition.
Pretty much.
That's right. Well, I don't know. Did we have anything else to?
Because I am fucking reeling from that shit.
Yeah, I think this is a good. We'll cut it just before this. But I know
so much more yelling to do.
Well, I got to get off and I got to start dinner. It's very late.
Well, that sounds like a very personal thing that I did not need to hear. But yeah, you have fun getting off.
Well, and you've got that bottle of Malort. Just have that for dinner.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Since you've got that bottle of Malort, I don't know, fuck yourself.
Well, so I think the intro we did talk about how we might talk about the leftist infighting thing. It may be worth like jumping on to another session at some point and just like having that discussion.
I hear you. Instead of discussing leftist infighting, we provide examples.
Yes.
When we go to work, we check our hard-won rights at the door, and your employers rule over you night and day.
With the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
All right. Welcome back to Cars and Comrades. We had to take a short break because we needed to jump off. And so it's a few weeks later, and we're going to finish the conversation that we promised from the beginning, which we wouldn't be doing if we hadn't promised from the beginning. We definitely wouldn't have this conversation. But we mentioned it on recording. I can't cut it all out.
You can edit that out.
Well,
that hasn't been released yet.
I know. It'd be a little bit much. So, we'll finish up our conversation. But in addition to Brandon and Bryant with me, we have Zach with us this week. So, it's halfway through the episode, but Zach's joining us.
I'm here. I just walked in the middle of the recording that happened 3 weeks ago.
Anyway, the topic here, we're kind of just going to have a little bit of a discussion that hopefully doesn't devolve into any leftist infighting. But we're going to talk about leftist infighting. So
I disagree.
sure, it'll go
We're
well.
not actually going to talk about that.
Perfect. We're off to a great start.
I think this is a terrible start.
Well, so the reason I bring it up is because, one, I am like terminally online, partially because I do a lot of the show social media, so I'm like trapped online, which, so I have to see a lot of the stupid bullshit, and I'm just like, God damn, it's just, it's demoralizing. So, I find it helps to hear from other people sometimes that not everyone agrees with you, and they're probably not all paid by the CIA. So not
Are
everyone.
you saying that possibly Lenin did do something wrong? I meant Stalin. Damn it.
Hold on, we'll edit that out. Go ahead, say it again.
Okay. Tell me when we start. I'm gonna make this sound very natural and organic. I have to because I'm in the film industry now, so I got to be good at acting.
Yeah. Hold on. God damn it. Well, I said something and then I don't know, something about leftist infighting.
We all said something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so leftist infighting, right?
Yeah.
That's the topic.
Yep.
Leftist infighting. Correct.
I was going to say, I'm not sure which group fights more and splits more, Christians or leftists, because
ooh, that's tough.
yeah,
I was gonna say leftist, but then there's a lot of different denominations of Christianity, so
yeah,
but that took a long time. Leftists have done all of this in like 150 years.
yeah.
But
I don't know who wins the prize for fighting over the dumbest shit though. Like,
Mormons.
Is it?
I think it's Christians for sure.
Like, does this juice or wine or whatever actually turn into the real blood of Christ? Are all Catholics vampires?
Oh, there's been Christian infighting for way dumber shit than that.
Yeah.
I grew up in churches, and I had people come into the church that I attended as a child, and realize that we used chairs instead of pews, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm out of here." Like, you folding chairs in the house of the Lord? Get out of here!
I have
right.
something. I don't know if it beats that or is just depressing.
Either way, I'm glad to hear it.
The church my mom went to, the deacon was having an affair with a lady in the congregation and tried and murdered her husband.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
Like a good Christian.
Just like King David. Or was it Solomon?
They tried to frame somebody or something, and there was because they were trying to get insurance money.
Oh my God.
But
Wow.
they're in a church that's cool with divorce, so
So wait, did they hit every
there
deadly
were
sin?
easier ways. What's that?
Did they hit all 7 of the deadly sins? They must have.
I don't know what all 7 of the deadly sins are, so I don't know. They
probably
got
hit
a
most
few.
of them.
Yeah.
The only way I can remember it is that movie with Ed Norton.
Brad.
Yeah.
I think it was just called Seven.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's
Ed
the
Norton's
what's in
that
the
movie,
box.
Yes. Anyways,
Wait, Are we recording?
we are recording.
Is this part of the podcast? What are we talking about?
So, leftist infighting. Is it good? Is it bad?
Yeah, see, I think
I'm gonna
it's
say
the type that matters.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's fine to disagree, but like if you get to the point where you're like telling someone to go fuck off and die, like maybe take a step back and like think about what brought you to this point. Like, I don't know.
I see no reason to tell another leftist to fuck off and die when I can just calmly send them to the gulag.
Yeah. I think, generally speaking, like let's say, like, I am a DSA member and I don't agree with every policy that the DSA has, but I'm willing to work within it. And like, I haven't really looked into joining any other leftist orgs. Like, I do respect a lot of the work that PSL does. Like, I don't necessarily agree with all of their principles and everything, which is why I haven't joined them. But like, let's say they became the more preeminent socialist org in the U.S. and they were doing, big transformative things. I would be like, okay, I'm on board with you guys. You know, can I join if I believe these things? Can I work with you guys? I agree to disagree on these things, but like, what you're doing is good. Let's get on board with it. So like, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I have my own opinions on things and I'm willing to argue with folks, but like, as long as we can work together and do something bigger, whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not too picky about that.
I'm cool with working alongside anyone so long as they agree to give me their unwavering support no matter what my decisions are.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to like the brass tacks of it, like leftists are just out organized on every single front that there is. Like,
Yeah.
everyone is better organized than we are.
And-
From the far right to the center left, if you would even call them center
in all
left.
fairness, those positions tend to be well financed, as to where the only money going into the left is to like discredit it.
Yeah, no, that's a completely fair point. But like, I think we're not doing ourselves any favors by letting petty shit, create more fractures and factions within the broader left. Maybe that's a little rosy way to look at it, but when there's such a small movement already on the left, it's hard to pick little battles and just fight and die on these stupid little hills.
Yeah.
We're just getting out organized like crazy.
I think part of it is there is kind of a desire. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but like, sometimes I want to argue these ideological battles because it's helpful for me to understand my positions and understand critiques of it. It's like there's learning to be done, and I crave like having my ideas tested, but I can't argue with a right winger or a liberal because they're just like, it's like I'm speaking a different language. So I think
Absolutely.
part of the problem is that like leftists are relegated to only argue amongst themselves, and so they do. I think that is a part of it, because again, yeah, it's just like, can you when you argue with like a liberal and you're just like, okay, cool, all right, I guess we can't have this debate until here's all the historical examples of this. Oh, here's how that's not true. You're starting at like socialism 101 for every single conversation, and then you're never going to get into the exact critique of whether or not all history is necessarily the history of class struggle or whatever the debate is.
Yeah.
There's a debate over that?
You know what, I actually don't know. I was just trying to pick something that isn't debated very often, I guess.
Something that's so obviously correct that if someone were to argue against it, it's just like, please get out of my movement and start your own separate thing. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think to a certain extent that's really healthy, actually.
Yeah.
Like, there's a very small subset of people who have looked at all of the same information and just come to different conclusions, rather than people who refuse to even give these thoughts, a second look. So to have different conclusions come to from the same information, you need to take those conclusions and compare with each other. That's great. I think that's really helpful for us as leftists individually and all together collectively as a movement to work through these ideas and kind of bounce them off one another. I think when it comes down to like pushing people away is when it becomes, even that has a limit, I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that, and that's what
I said, I think there's, yeah.
But like, sometimes people just take positions that you can't agree with. the other day I heard someone support the policies of Khrushchev, and now I'm wanted for murder. Like, what can you do?
I do like all of his PR photos with Korn. That's very amusing to me. Like, that dude was just real happy about Korn.
I didn't
The
know
band?
anything about
Movie
this.
brain
What?
production. A conversation we on the left finally have.
Yeah, Khrushchev was all about nu metal like 40 years before it became a real thing.
Well, he got his start in politics roadieing for Limp Bizkit.
But what was I gonna say? Oh, I think, yeah, it's good to have these discussions, like, because like when I first got into the DSA, I was a baby lib, and like I don't think they're still doing this, but they were doing what they called Socialist Night School, which was like, just these little lessons that someone would put on about whatever interest or topic that they had. And one of them was like police abolition or prison abolition and that sort of thing. And like back then when I was going into it, I'm like, how would you abolish the police and the prisons? Like, where are we going to lock up all the rapists and murderers and stuff? And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I'm down with this. Like, yes, we need to, radically transform the way we do justice and make a clean break with the past in this regard. So,
Yeah, and I feel like everyone's at a different point in their ideological journey.
yeah, I guess one thing I forgot who said this, but like, if I can put on my tinfoil hat for a second, like, I wonder how much leftist infighting is the result of like right-wing infiltration or like law enforcement infiltration, just wreckers trying to fuck things up, because
more than 0%.
Yeah, definitely. Because like that's like I think there was like some CIA handbook on like infiltration and like disruption that was leaked, or released in a redacted form several years ago, and like all the steps are like start pointless discussions about bullshit, make long speeches about nothing, make procedural disputes about like parliamentary issues, and try to draw out that as long as possible without actually getting anything done. And like, I don't know, I've seen some of that kind of thing happen in DSA meetings where it's like, no, we have, because of Robert's Rules of Orders, we got to do this thing. And it's like, at the one point I'm like, okay, sure, if you just want to be orderly and get things done the right way or whatever, okay, fine. But also, like, this seems like kind of a waste of time to me sometimes, like, how can we like make things a little bit more streamlined so it's not just all parliamentary bullshit? I don't know. Maybe that's maybe PSL does that better. I don't know. Maybe
I know
if you.
I know the exact thing you're talking about. The that CIA, whatever. Here's this guide on how to disrupt these movements, and a part of me, putting my tinfoil hat on for a minute, can't help but wonder: did they leak that and just like they don't actually do it, but they leaked it so that everyone would accuse each other of doing that? Because if that's what they wanted to do,
Damn.
it's a very successful operation. Because that's what I see on Twitter: is everyone they're a CIA op, and it's like, no, they're not. They disagree with you on a point. Get over it. They're not. Okay, maybe they're funded by the CIA, but maybe. It seems. If they wanted us to believe that, though, they certainly found a good way to do it. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets thrown around so much, though.
Way too much.
Like,
way too
my
much.
God. Every little disagreement, it's like, you're CIA, you're CIA, you're CIA. It's like, Jesus Christ, is everyone... It's like, I don't know if you've ever been on Reddit, but it's like the old Reddit thing. Everyone on Reddit is a bot except you. It's like everyone on left Twitter is CIA except you.
Exactly.
You're the only one.
Maybe they just disagree with you on something. Like, maybe they came to a different conclusion. Or maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're just like, they're not as educated. They're not all CIA, and they're not all grifters. That's another one I see thrown around way too much. You're like, okay, they get paid for it. And it's like, yeah, they have a job. Do you have a job? Do you get paid for? Oh, wow, interesting. Some of it is just, it feels ridiculous at times. Again, some good debates are worthwhile, and then there's like left Twitter, and it's bad. It's just like, I feel like people just need to take a chill pill sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's really funny when Anders Lee from the Pod Damn America podcast. He gets in like arguments with liberals, and he's like, "I am literally paid by the Russian government." So like, I'm just putting my cards out on the table there, and they're like, "What?"
So I'm of two minds specifically on the idea that are on this debate, because on the one hand, it does seem somewhat absurd to credit like almost any degree of leftist infighting to FBI, CIA, police, whatever. It kind of seems like we're good enough at fighting with each other on our own that they don't really need to be involved. But leftist infighting definitely goes back to the beginning of leftism in the modern sense.
Yeah.
And it's not really that hard to look at documents from, the entirety of the 20th century and see that the whole time they have been infiltrating leftist organizations and causing problems and disrupting things. And like the best example I can think of is it was either in the San Francisco or Oakland chapter of the Black Panthers. There was a very early member, like not a founding member, but somebody who was with the organization almost from the beginning for years, and he was a fucking he was a plant from the police. I forget what role he played, but he got people arrested and or killed because he was working for the cops, and that was real. They were absolutely 100% doing that, and some of them were people that you would never think would be like a CIA operative or FBI or anybody. So they're 100% have a history of doing it, and I wonder the extent to which we overreact because of a historical analysis of it versus underreact because you kind of can't see the forest for the trees in like the immediate present. And I don't have a good solution to that. It's very difficult. But if I had to make a claim right now, I would say we're probably fine because I don't think anyone on the left is doing any serious enough organizing that it really needs subverted that aggressively.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's good to have a little bit of a I don't know, healthy skepticism or healthy paranoia, maybe, but just don't let it consume you or get in your way of doing, the movement. Like, I don't know what the balance is there, but
I think that's like the way you get around is like, okay, well, they've infiltrated these movements. Don't, when you start giving into the bait, that's when there's a problem, though. Like, if they're there to cause problems and they successfully do it, it's partially like just, and I think there's a lot of that online because there's like, oh, I'm going to start this argument for no reason. You're like, why? Just like, why? It seems silly, and everyone gets on board and like, okay, they're going to have this fight, and you're like, but it's not actually important. You see this a lot with like people like this YouTuber or that YouTuber, and they're having a beef, so their quote unquote followers have a fight, and you're just like, hey, maybe we shouldn't follow people like that. Like, let's think for ourselves. I listen to tons of people who have had bad takes. I just don't like those takes. I'm not like, oh,
I ignore tons of people
that bad
who have
take
good
is
takes.
Yeah, there you go. That's just life. You like who you like, and whatever. They're not all grifters. They're not all CIA funded, and you don't have to go to war on behalf of your preferred YouTuber or internet show or Twitter account. It's just silly. Just lay off. Just don't. You don't have to get into that fight.
What happened to No Gods, No Masters?
Yeah,
Is this fucking YouTuber your master now? You gonna go fucking beef on Twitter because they're beefing on YouTube? Dude, get something else to fucking do. Anything.
Yeah.
Literally. Read a book, touch
100%.
yourself, watch a movie. I don't care. Don't fucking... That's the worst way to spend your time. Like, it's ridiculous.
No, it does often feel like it's almost like their fans turn into their employees in some ways, and it's like, hey, you're doing this for free. Like, just no, just
Yeah.
they're having a beef. Just let them work it out. Just, you don't need to be there. You can listen to
Yeah.
their show and then also listen to a different show. You don't have to be involved in their weird internet battles, because again, it just creates a hostile environment. And I'm not sure if everyone wants to admit it, but most people, or maybe I'm mistaken, but I feel like most of us get to socialist ideas from the internet somehow. And so when your introductory experience is seeing the fighting, it's not a good look. Like, that's where a lot of our recruiting is done, more so than maybe we want, but like that's just the reality. That's how the internet is today. That's our modern society. It's online. And so the
See,
weird
now I've heard that
infighting
a
is
lot
what-
of people get leftist ideas because they're teaching Marxism to elementary school students now. Is that not true?
Well, it could be that, but let's be more. It's probably from the internet more so than their teachers making sure they read the Communist Manifesto and write book reports on
Like,
it.
yo, I met
I
this
don't know.
8-year-old kid the other day, and he started talking to me about Lenin coats, and I'm like, yo, what's up?
I was walking by a kindergarten the other day, and they were making kids share. Sounds like Marxism to me.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope there.
And then one kid wouldn't share, so they put him in the gulag.
I mean, they did put him up against the wall, but that was just timeout.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would call the timeout area the gulag.
Oh my god! Now, if I were a kindergarten teacher, I would definitely put kids in punishment by saying, "All right, up against the wall."
Give him a little blindfold and a little cigarette.
Candy cigarette. Oh my god.
And if anybody was wondering why I'm not an elementary school teacher,
Oh Jesus. Well,
So did we figure it out?
I feel like we
Leftist
did.
infighting?
it's solved.
Take a
It's
fucking
solved.
chill pill. Go outside. Yeah, don't make us look bad
Touch
online.
grass.
If you're having a disagreement,
build
Yeah.
a car.
there you go.
Go do some hood rat shit with your friends. Go rip
Yeah.
donuts
Way
in a
more
cul-de-sac. Do burnouts in a parking lot. Way better use of your time.
Yeah, that's very fun. Do that.
That reminds me of I might have to find the news article here. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just looking for something here.
To pretty much put a bow tie on this conversation here, I'd like to finish it off by letting any other podcasts know that we are in fact open to leftist infighting for the purposes of making a spectacle and growing our audience. So, you know, if you'd like to create a fictional beef, get at us. Doesn't have to be fictional, I guess.
I'm open to leftist infighting, but I don't want to do it online. Show up at my house, you fucking cowards.
Let's have a leftist. We really should have like by city or something, leftist like boxing clubs or something. I feel like that would be cool. We should look into that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Connor's trying to start a fight club.
Well, yeah, I guess I didn't think about that parallel.
I mean, they did end with targeting like banks and stuff, which was pretty dope. So
Yeah, that was some
I
good
can get
direct
behind it.
action. That was like
Yeah.
the definition of direct action. Allegedly, parody.
I
we
mean,
agree. Leftist infighting good.
I definitely will not make any actionable threats against credit card companies in Delaware.
But to help
Like
bring
what happened in
balance
that
to the
movie.
podcast, I will only bring actionable threats against credit card companies in Delaware.
Thanks for taking the focus off me, Brandon.
Dude, Delaware doesn't have a sales tax, so what we need to do is focus on burning banks to the ground.
Indeed.
There was no connection there. Two separate facts.
Oh, did you hear that guy from Whitest Kids You Know died? Trevor Moore?
Whoa.
The guy that said it is definitely illegal to go on TV and say, I want to kill the president. Yeah, just yesterday. He was like 40.
That's crazy. I liked
Yeah.
that show.
What show?
Did someone not like him advocating for killing the president?
No, it said an accident at home. I'm not really sure what that means. Or an accident. I think it just said an accident.
He mysteriously shot himself in the back of the head 3 times.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. To my knowledge, he wasn't a leftist, so he might have actually just had an accident. If he was a leftist, it would probably be 3 bullets to the back of the head and an apparent suicide.
He had that song called Guillotine Time. That was pretty good.
They also had a skit where they were supposedly like middle schoolers in the back of a bus, and they were doing like rowdy middle schooler stuff, and the bus driver like just kept letting it happen, and they were like throwing firecrackers out the window and like making cars crash and stuff, and then they started talking about communism, and the bus driver pulled over and was like, "You cut that shit out!"
Wait, what show was this? Or person or whatever?
Whitest Kids You Know?
Oh, yeah. That was
was on IFC like 10 years ago or more.
Yeah. Huh.
That's sad.
But something someone said reminded me of this news story I saw also of TikTok star Timothy Hall, a.k.a. Timbo the Redneck, dies in a truck stunt accident at age 18. So basically this Florida redneck guy was doing donuts in his front yard in his lifted pickup with no seatbelt on, flipped it over and died. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should cut that part out. I just thought about that.
Remember when you do donuts in your front yard to wear a seatbelt.
Yes.
We're good.
Remember when you do donuts in your own front yard, be hammered so that you loosen up your body and you survive the accident.
Yeah. I think this guy had a bunch of like Confederate flags and stuff.
Yeah, he was an asshole. Yeah, he was a douchebag.
Yeah, he was.
I'm going to criticize him for being a piece of shit and not for doing a thing that I have done on numerous occasions recently.
You can tell revolutionary, but you can't tell a revolution.
All profit is value extraction, and that means that all profit is theft from you.
2 JC and no shit.
How then does the capitalist make profit and end up with more value than they started with? Well, the way they do that is by paying workers just enough so that they are able to buy the things they need to survive and go to work each day, but by getting them to produce more value than what they are being paid for. The extra value that workers produce is called surplus value, and capitalists make profit by taking that surplus value for themselves.
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100-shot of Nas didn't blow the welds on the intake.
And when the boss decides to fire you, there's no due process. Like a feudal lord, he can fire and punish workers at will. In practice, American workplaces are like private governments, where the freedoms we associate with democracy don't exist. When we clock in, we become subjects, not citizens.
What are you smiling about?
Dude, I almost had you.